amateur to professional chef. My name is Julia. I'm a registered dietitian and a terrible cook. So today we're going to be making fried fish tacos, homemade salsa, and Spanish rice. Let's get started. So I'm starting with the tomatoes for the salsa. I'm going to go ahead and cut those up. Kind of close. Alright, so I'm done with that. Next up, we're going to take the red onions. It says to finely chop it. So, again, I got to take the skin off, I think.
Did you measure it? How much is supposed to go in the salsa?
A half of it. Okay, so I have the onion and the tomato in here. Next, I'm going to take the jalapenos. It says 1 to 2, and then it also says to keep seeds in if you want to be a little bit more spicy. And I like it a little bit more spicy. All right. It says to finely chop these as well. Everything needs to be finely chopped, I guess. I'm going to add this to our current mix, and then I think I'm going to add one more just to make it a little bit more spicy. So I've chopped up the tomatoes, onions, and the peppers. Now I'm going to add in some cilantro. The recipe calls for ½ a cup. Like everything else, finely chopped. So let's work on my knife skills. So what I'm finding really hard about these like leafy vegetables like the cilantro and the parsley is I can't really like cut them down enough to like tiny little bits. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them below. I'd love to know how to get that a little bit more refined. We have about ½ a cup of the cilantro. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in there. So far, so good. Now we're gonna move on to the garlic cloves. So I'm mincing my garlic. I'm getting it nice and tiny. I'm removing all the skin, or I don't know what that's called. I think skin's right.
Huh?
And then I'm going to go ahead and add that to my mixture. And the final 2 steps are to add some lime juice and to add a little bit of salt. So I'm gonna take about ½ a lime, and I'm gonna cut down the middle, and then I'm gonna squeeze it in here, kind of like that. So I'm gonna add some salt, and then I'm gonna mix around all the ingredients and let it sit. Okay, what do you think? I think it looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and let it sit for about 20 minutes. Okay, so I've let the pico de gallo sit. I'm gonna test it out. You can see in the back here, we have the oil going because next we're gonna make some Spanish rice. All right, so I wanna get a bit of everything on this. Really good. Okay, so as I said, we have the vegetable oil in the pan. It's heating up, so we're gonna start the Spanish rice. This recipe calls for 1 cup. Sorry, I'm gonna do that again. Okay, so we have 1 cup in the saucepan, and then it says to kind of stir around a little bit. I'm gonna stir this around. It's supposed to get golden brown. And then I'm gonna add in my onion and my garlic. Okay, so I have to do a 4th cup of onion. I'm gonna take my white onion this time. Go ahead and take that. We'll see if that gives us a 1/4 of a cup. Okay, so I have my about a 1/4 of a cup. This is a ½ cup, so half of that, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that in. Next, I'm gonna take 2 garlic cloves. I'm gonna mince those. Okay, so I've chopped my garlic cloves. I'm gonna add that in as well. I'm gonna stir it around a little bit. And then all I need to do is pour in the chicken broth and then heat it to a boil. So I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 cups of my chicken broth. Okay, so now we're gonna bring this to a boil. I'm gonna turn up the heat a little bit. And we'll come back when it's done.
Hey, Julia?
Yeah.
I think it's boiling.
So it's starting to boil. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover it, reduce the heat, and then we'll let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so we're on to the last part. Salsa's done, rice is cooking behind me, and now we're going to fry some fish. So I'm gonna start by chopping it up, and we're gonna batter it, and I'm gonna throw it into the oil. It says to do strip-sized pieces, so I'm just gonna make like maybe 4 on each fillet I have, like this. So I'm cooking cod. because the recipe did call for white fish, and this was the cheapest. Okay, so now I'm going to make my batter. I'm going to take all my dry ingredients, put it into a bowl, and then slowly mix in. It's a carbonated drink, so it called for either beer or sparkling water. I'm going to do the sparkling water. I do need a bowl. Oh, we have one.
No, too small.
Too small. Okay, so I have my cod pieces, and now I'm going to make my batter. So I'm going to add all my dry ingredients into the bowl, and then I'm going to slowly whisk in the sparkling water. The reason that you're doing this, so I've heard, is that it helps kind of fry, or helps with the frying process when you add a carbonated beverage in. Okay, so we're going to add in our dry ingredients. I'm going to take a cup of flour, like that. This is a half cup. Looks like our rice is done.
There's actually there's a time element to when you're frying.
Wait, I should put that on directly on there. Should I?
You should.
Oh, there's actually so many cooking. All right, let's resume. We have our flour in the bowl. Next, we're going to take a half cup of cornstarch. All right, we're going to take a half cup of cornstarch. Again, this is a half cup measurement. Oh, okay. Boom. Close enough. Oh my god. Where's our baking powder? Do you have baking powder? Okay, now we're going to take a teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, now a teaspoon of paprika. Ooh. Look at that, problem solving. Boom. And then a half teaspoon of garlic powder. Okay. There we go. And then finally, some salt and pepper. Okay, so we have our flour, our cornstarch, our baking powder, and our spices. I'm gonna go ahead and mix that around. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a cup of our carbonated beverage. I'm gonna start with a half cup at first. You can already see it's fizzling because it's mixed in with the previous ingredients. I'm slowly adding it in, I think is what I'm supposed to do. It says whisk. Ready to whisk? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna whisk in our carbonated beverage. I don't really know how to whisk in properly. Okay, I think we've reached the correct consistency for our batter. Okay, so now that I have the consistency that I need for the batter, I'm gonna go ahead and fully coat all of my fish. So I'm gonna take it, dip it all the way in. Ooh, okay, kind of like that. Again, dipping it on both sides, getting it nice and coated. So the consistency is a bit wet. I kind of want it to be a little bit thicker and more attached to the actual strips, but it's coming out a little bit like it's dripping off of it. So I think I may have went wrong by adding in too much of the sparkling water because it's a little bit too wet and it's not sticking to the fish as much as I'd like it to. Okay, so the oil is heated up. We're gonna try to fry these now. I'm very scared because I've never fried anything before and I know it shoots out at you, so. Okay. I need to shield. Alright, so. It did hit me, so I'm a little nervous. And it's also very loud. Are you looking at safe internal temperature? It's 145 for fish. I'm a dietitian. So again, just frying them up until they're golden brown. Should take about 4 minutes until they're fully cooked.
What's up?
Ah! These ones are like not as good. So maybe what I realized here is that I should have waited to batter it and then immediately put it in rather than let them all get battered first and take them one by one. Because these ones are not, they're not frying like the other ones were. So I'm taking off the last bit of fish from our frying pan. I'm gonna let them sit for a second and just double check them for their temperature to make sure that they've been fully cooked. Okay, so we have our fried fish. I went ahead and patted them down so it's not as oily. Now we're gonna heat up the tortillas and then plate everything. So we're just... So we're just gonna heat up their tortillas. I'm just gonna flip them on both sides. a nail-sized hole in it. I'm just heating them up until they're like a slight brown color. Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and plate these so you can see how they look all together. Okay, so here we have our fully plated dish. I think it turned out pretty good. The frying was better than I expected, so we're gonna go ahead and give this a try. Okay, so I'm gonna add some lime, just for some extra flavor. So initial thoughts, it is a little bit bland, so I think the fish could have used more flavoring. But for my first time frying, I think it turned out pretty good. If you have any flavoring tips, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And next we're gonna try the rice. The rice is pretty good. Again, also a little bit bland, but there were some additional options that I could have added, like peas and carrots. I just didn't. So maybe for next time, I'll try that with the Spanish rice. Good. Good. As my voice goes higher. Good. It's really good. So this was day 2 of beginner to pro home chef. Day 1, I cooked a steak, and I think I have improved since then. However, there are some things I still want to work on. For starters, my knife skills, I think, need a lot of improvement. I also want to improve my flavoring skills, because although this is edible, it's not like, wow, I would spend another 2 hours cooking this. I just need to add more flavor to it. And then 3, just making like less of a mess in general. So I'm gonna try again next week with a new recipe, and we'll see how it goes.